right here is probably the best area to stay in Copenhagen, and it is where most tourists end up staying. But if you do want something a little bit different and a little more unique, then perhaps one of the other 5 areas that we're gonna have a look at today is gonna be for you. Oh, and I'll also share 3 hotel recommendations for each area, so let's just jump in. So the area where most tourists end up staying is Indre By, which translates to the inner city, or basically downtown or the city center. And I mean, it's for good reason that most people end up staying here. All the famous tourist attractions, all the things that you know and have seen about Copenhagen, they're just around the corner. Nyhavn, the Little Mermaid, the Parliament, the beautiful castles, it's all here. And for most visitors, this will just be the best area to stay in, especially if this is your first time visiting, or if you only have a couple of days here in Copenhagen. You are very close to basically everything. All the attractions, you can pretty much walk to whatever you want to do if you're staying here in the inner city. And to me, this, being right in the middle of the action, is the biggest selling point of staying in the city center. You can save a lot of time by being close to everything, and also quite a bit of money since you don't really have to pay for transportation very often. Also, it's just beautiful here. You'll wake up amongst these old buildings and walk the colorful streets as soon as you step out of your hotel. Staying in the city center is a safe bet for everyone coming to Copenhagen. And I do have a whole video all about the city center and the best things and the most famous and the coolest attractions to see and to visit here in Copenhagen. So you can check that out, the link is in the description. So what are the downsides of staying here? Well, as I mentioned, most tourists stay in this area. So even though Copenhagen is not totally overrun by tourists, this is where most of them are. You'll see a lot of the hop-on, hop-off buses and the big tour groups where the guide runs around with a flag and so on. Whereas if you stay in one of the other areas, you won't really see a lot of this, only when you go to visit the attractions in the city center, of course. Okay, but which hotel should you stay in the city center? Well, I haven't stayed in that many hotels here in Copenhagen because, well, I live here. But through some research and recommendations and experiences from friends visiting here, I will give you 3 recommendations in 3 different budgets. I don't include hostels here, but they will likely be the cheapest option, so hop on hostelworld.com if you're looking for that. I also exclude Airbnbs as they are just really expensive, but there will be some apartment-style hotels that are fantastic for families a little later in the video. But onto the budget hotel I recommend in the city center. It's called Wake Up Copenhagen Borgergade. Here you'll get a nice basic room, but really it's the location here that's the awesome part. The price is around 900 Danish kroner or $125 per night, although the prices of course vary throughout the year. That may not sound very budget-like for you, but Copenhagen is a very expensive city, and indeed this is in the lower end for a standard hotel room. For our mid-range option in the city center, we have Hotel Kong Arthur. This hotel is just gorgeous and it is located in a great area just next to the lakes. The price here is around 1200 Danish kroner or $170 per night. Oh, and I will have links to all of these hotels down in the description so you can check them out if you want. For our luxury stay in the city center, how about staying at the most iconic location in the city, Nyhavn. 71 Nyhavn Hotel is a beautiful 5-star hotel, and if you want a luxury experience, check this place out. The price here is around 2000 Danish kroner or $285 per night. The second area we will look at today is a little west from the city center and is called Frederiksberg. Okay, so now we are in Frederiksberg, and I call this the hidden gem because honestly most tourists simply don't go here. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. there aren't really any of the, I guess, the famous tourist attractions out here, and it is just a bit away from the city center. But that doesn't mean that there aren't a good reason to come out here. Now, I might be a little bit biased because I've lived here for around 7 years of my life, but for good reason. It is a fantastic area to live in, and there are a lot of things to do as a tourist. For one thing, there are a lot of parks and green areas here in Frederiksberg, more so than other parts in Copenhagen. And right now I'm standing in like just this little random park. I honestly don't even know the name, but it's just a cute little park in one of the cool areas in Frederiksberg. But before we start exploring more Frederiksberg, just a quick note on what Frederiksberg is and perhaps why you should consider staying here. Now, Frederiksberg is a little bit funny because it's actually its own municipality within the city of Copenhagen. So it's basically a city within a city. And it is perhaps a bit of a more fancy area and also one of the more expensive areas of Copenhagen, especially to live. But in turn, like, it's also just very beautiful and a good place to live and to stay. And there are tons of good places to hang out, nice restaurants, and like cool independent shops. Instead of like in the city center, you get more of the big box chains and so on. If you have like more than just a couple of days in Copenhagen, Frederiksberg is actually a pretty good place to stay, as you can get a real good insight in, I guess, into the local life here and how just everyday Frederiksberg people live. But you're still relatively close to all the attractions, and there are like still plenty of metro stations around here, so it's super easy. And I mean, again, because Copenhagen is so small, everything is just pretty easy to get to. So if you have the time and you want to get a bit more immersed in the culture here, maybe have a look at Frederiksberg. But now it's time to check out more of what this area has to offer. This is Frederiksberg Have, a large, lovely green space in the middle of Frederiksberg. This place is a favorite amongst locals to come here and go for a walk or a run, or even have a picnic, celebrate a birthday, or just have some beers, when the weather is nice at least. On the top of the hill here, overlooking the gardens, sits the beautiful Frederiksberg Castle. It used to be a summer residence for the royal family, but now it is home to an officer school for the Danish army. The Copenhagen Zoo is actually located just around the corner here, and a neat little thing in this park, you can actually get a completely free view of the elephants in the zoo. So let's go check that out. Okay, so of course they weren't out right now, but I've been here before, so let me just put up some footage from when they were actually outside. And you might also see the weather change quite a bit throughout this video. I'm recording this over a couple of days here in spring in Copenhagen. And in just a few days, like, the weather can basically go from like 2, 3, 5 degrees to today 20 degrees and full sunny. So you always have to be aware of the weather. And of course the parks here are just super nice during the warmer months here in Copenhagen, but also in the winter months they actually turned this whole area right here into just a big ice skating park. So that's kind of neat. My favorite street in Frederiksberg is probably Frederiksberg Allé, a Paris-inspired avenue. It's home to some beautiful buildings and cozy cafes and places to eat. And speaking of places to eat, since I live in this area, I have tried some of the restaurants around here in Frederiksberg. And these are some of my favorites. And all of these are actually located very close to the Frederiksberg metro station and the Frederiksberg Mall, and could of course be worth visiting even if you're staying in another area as well. The first is Madklubben, which basically translates to the food club. It's just good food, good vibes and fair prices. Bouillon is actually a new place and it's pretty cheap for eating out in Copenhagen. The downside to that is that everything feels a bit rushed and you have to leave after like 90 minutes. But if you want good food at the lowest price, go here. Fortenoir Legner might just have the best pizza in Copenhagen, and that's probably all you need to know about this place. Right, onto the hotel recommendations for Frederiksberg. And for the budget option, we have Cabin Scandinavia hotel. It's a basic room, not the prettiest on the outside, but at a decent price at around 700 Danish kroner or $100 per night. For the mid-range option, we have Scandic Falconer, a nice location next to all the restaurants I just mentioned, coming in at around 1100 Danish kroner or $155 per night. And for the luxury option, Hotel St. Thomas, a great location and a beautiful hotel. And it can even be cheaper than my mid-range option, but I have it here as they do have some larger rooms that could be great for families, and that will increase the price quite a bit. But for the smallest room, the price starts at around 1000 Danish kroner or $140 per night.
Phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it now, I can't afford to wait. I just had a
And the next area, Nørrebro.
Told them this would happen and we not a minute late. Seen them down bad, now they tryna hate. Same ones try to hit me for the raise. Got a mill, now they coming with a...
Nørrebro is a very vibrant and perhaps the most distinct area on this list. It feels a bit more raw here and probably a bit more real and not as fairy tale-esque as it can around the city center. It feels like a place regular people live and hang out. Alright, welcome to Nørrebro. This is a very young, vibrant area. I actually have my office right around the corner here because it is such a cool area, and well, I'll be honest, also because it's probably one of the cheaper areas here in Copenhagen, especially for renting out an office. But also you could be able to find some pretty decent food at some pretty good prices compared to at least other parts in Copenhagen. And here in Nørrebro you'll definitely see a lot of graffiti everywhere basically. And a lot of pigeons here at Nørrebro station. Nørrebro is a really cool, colorful area, and there's a lot of parks and small little skate parks right over here, which we'll check out. It's also very culturally diverse. There's a lot of immigrants who settled here, so it means it's probably the most culturally diverse area in Copenhagen. And you'll find cool kebab shops, probably the best kebab you can find in Copenhagen. You'll find right here in Nørrebro. Find just loads of different types of food and just the influence of so many different cultures, which is also part of what makes this place really unique in Copenhagen. And basically where we've been walking now is kind of this green corridor that basically runs through a lot of the city. And so there's a lot of parks kind of adjacent to this big bicycle road. So it's both a big transportation hub, but there's also a lot of cool parks and places to hang out and come skating and just chill, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, it is pretty cold today. It's I don't know, 6 degrees or something, so it's not very crowded out here. But when the weather gets a little bit better, it's a bit sunny, maybe 15, 20 degrees, then people really start coming out and just using and enjoying all of these outdoor spaces. Of course, this is true for all of Copenhagen, but it's just a special, young, vibrant vibe here in Nørrebro. And again, in the summer months, this lawn here would be full with people who are just chilling, having beers, eating some food. Now I see one person with a dog over there. A lot of Nørrebro is just kind of these smaller side streets that are really cozy. Residential areas, but with cafes and bars and small shops and kiosks littered all over. So it's just a really good vibe of how to mix the residential areas, but with usable cafes and places to actually sit and hang out. Like this right here. This right here is the Dronning Louisesbro, and again, when the weather is super nice, it's gonna be full of people just hanging out, having a beer, chilling. And this is where the Nørrebro actually meets the lakes here. And the lakes are also a very famous spot here in Copenhagen. And I mean, I usually come here to just go for a run, just run around the lakes here. It's very popular for that. But also this is where, I guess, so you have Nørrebro on that side, and then right on the other side of the lake, right there is downtown. So I guess this end of Nørrebro probably sees a bit more tourists because, I mean, it's right next to the downtown area. So if this kind of young, vibrant, very culturally diverse and perhaps a little colorful and playful vibe, if that sounds like something for you, I'm just gonna give you 3 recommendations for hotels. And actually there aren't too many hotels around here in Nørrebro because, I mean, it is mostly just a residential area. It's not really, I guess, a tourist area. Of course, some tourists are kind of starting to discover some of the cool spots and coming here to hang out. But it's really not a place where tourists are staying. But if that's for you, here are 3 hotel recommendations. For a budget hotel in Nørrebro, have a look at A&O Copenhagen Nørrebro. Now this might technically be a hostel, but they have a lot of private rooms as well. The location is a bit in the far end of Nørrebro, but if you want to meet other people while staying off the beaten path, have a look at this place. Price is around 900 Danish kroner or $130 per night. For a mid-range option, we have Hotel M18. It's probably not the prettiest of all of the hotels here, but the location is perfect. Price also around 900 Danish kroner or $130 per night. And for luxury on Nørrebro, have a look at Hotel Nora. Again, a great location right on the popular Nørrebrogade, and it has a nice retro Danish design. Price is around 1400 Danish kroner or $200 per night. Up next, we'll head to the hip and trendy Vesterbro. And Vesterbro is a very popular area to stay in, also for tourists. It's very central, there are loads of hotels around here, and it's just so easy to get to. I mean, right now we are at the Copenhagen Central Station, and this is basically the east side of Vesterbro. So right on that side we have Tivoli, and beyond that you're basically in the city center. So you can imagine there's loads of hotels just around here, Central Station. So this is where we're gonna start exploring Vesterbro, and then we're gonna move a little bit into the neighborhood itself and check out some of the cool hidden spots. Vesterbro actually used to be a bit of a rough area in Copenhagen, and although you can still see some remnants of that, the area is very much transformed to a beautiful, safe and expensive part of the city.
I was waiting in the undertow, set adrift with featherweight like bows, unaware of where my heart would flow. I was waiting in the undertow.
And one spot that the locals here really like to come and hang out is this place right here called Helmtall, which is basically just this long strip of greenery here in the middle of the city. So when the weather is nice again, people will just buy a beer in the supermarket and come here and hang out with friends. And it is also right next to probably the most famous area here in Vesterbro, which is Kødbyen, or the meatpacking district, and that is where we'll go next.
Losing my direction, my bearings have me south of home.
Kødbyen is a popular spot for locals and tourists alike to come for food, drinks and some partying. And I think the industrial look here gives this area a very special vibe. And since this area is all about good food and drinks, let's try some. I head to this place called Siesta, which I think is newly opened, and here they sell burgers. So I get a burger, fries and a small craft beer, and I must say, it was really delicious. What's perhaps not so delicious is the price, 210 Danish kroner or $30 for this lot. Welcome to Copenhagen. But if you are traveling on a budget or just want to have a very unique experience, I have another recommendation for you here in Vesterbro. We head over to Folkehuset Absalon, which is a community center basically that is located in an old church, which gives it a very unique feeling. They host a ton of events here. I mean, look at this calendar. But what I really love here is the communal dinners. Here you can dine with locals, and as you sit at these large tables, it's very easy to meet and talk to people. Oh, and the price? Just 60 Danish kroner or $9 on Sunday through Wednesday, and Thursday to Saturday 100 Danish kroners or $15. You can also drop by for breakfast or lunch, or like me, just come by for a coffee anytime. This latte set me back 30 Danish kroner. This place is a true gem in Vesterbro. And Vesterbro really has like a young, cool vibe, and there's a lot of good places to eat, and also quite a lot of the nightlife in Copenhagen is to be found here. A lot of nice bars and also places to really party. Staying in Vesterbro is a safe bet for most visitors. Plenty of hotel options and very close to the city center, but with its own unique charm, cool places, and a fantastic vibe. For a budget hotel here in Vesterbro, we have City Hub Copenhagen. Great location, pretty close to Frederiksberg, so a good option to explore both of these neighborhoods. Some of the rooms here are smaller pod-like rooms with shared bathrooms, so be aware of that. Price around 900 Danish kroner or $130 per night. For a mid-range option, check out Hotel Tiffany. Awesome location, very close to Tivoli, Kødbyen and other cool places, and it has a sleek, modern design. Price 2,000 Danish kroners or $285 per night. Now, if you want the best of the best, Hotel Nymph might be for you. Nymph is basically located alongside Tivoli, and from the rooms you have a view overlooking the Tivoli gardens. This place is true luxury, and you will pay for it. Around 10,000 Danish kroners or $1,400 per night. Yeah, it's that expensive. But if you go to the pinned comment down below, you can actually download this whole guide as a shorter written version. And in there, I do have a secondary luxury option that is quite a bit cheaper. Traveling with kids, or just want to stay in a quiet area away from the tourists and the crowds, then Østerbro might be for you.
Now we are back here by the lakes, but now we're in Østerbro. So basically, you can see we came from down here is the downtown and Nørrebro that way. So we're just at the north side of the lakes here. And I think Østerbro is a pretty chill area. It's also quite expensive actually. You know, it's a little bit fancy, the buildings are nice, there's a lot of perhaps expensive restaurants and cafes, but it's a really chill vibe. But I think it's very, very good if you are like going as a family. There's some good hotels where you could get like apartments with a kitchen, a few rooms, and it's just quiet. And there might not be like so much going on, but you're still like very, very close to all the attractions and everything that you want to see. So it's a pretty good option, especially as a family. But now we're gonna do one of the most popular activities here in Østerbro. So we're gonna go get a coffee right over here and then just take it and hang around, go for a little walk around the lakes. So I managed to get myself a cup of coffee here at this place called Dallas, just around the corner here. It's just a small little coffee place, and it is actually really good. But I guess the problem is it was 45 Danish kroner, so that's like $6 to $7. And like, I mean, in most of the coffee places, that is just the price for coffee here in Copenhagen. It is just really expensive. But now, I mean, the sun's out. I'm chilling here with a cup of coffee just by the lakes here. So that is not too bad. And Østerbro is a really good place for that, to just chill. So you can see, like, this is actually a pretty typical street here in Østerbro. Just a very beautiful, beautiful residential area, and it's just super quiet. I mean, people just live here, so there's not a lot going on. It's really nice and peaceful vibe here. So this street right here is called Rysgade, and it is probably one of my favorites here in Østerbro. It's a really, again, quiet, like very good looking street. It's very gorgeous, but there's just a lot of cool cafes, a lot of good coffee shops. It's just a very nice place to come hang out if you're staying here in Østerbro. Another cool thing here in Østerbro is where we are right now. This is called Fælledparken, and it's basically just this huge, big green area, big park. Like you can play people play a lot of sports here. Like you can see there's football fields set up. You know, there's a lot of playground, there's a lake. You know, it's just a good place like to be out in nature, go for a run, go for a walk, do some sports, or just be outside. And this is also where, like right over here, is where the National Football Stadium of Copenhagen, of Denmark is, I guess. So you could go there and watch a football match, because this is also where FC Copenhagen plays, but I can't really recommend you do that because I'm actually a fan of the rival team called Brøndby. So I can't really say that you should go here, but if you want to watch a football game, you could do that.
For our budget option, we'll be staying on the cool street Ryesgade at Rye 115 Hotel. It has a nice classic Danish design and offers some larger family rooms as well. Prices start at around 1,000 Danish kroner or $140 per night. Our mid-range option might be the perfect spot for a family with kids. Edina Apartment Hotel is in a quiet location and you'll have a full apartment here. Price around 2,000 Danish kroner or $285 per night. For a luxury stay in Østerbro, have a look at Charlottehaven, a beautiful hotel by the waterfront and not too far from the Little Mermaid. Here you'll also have a full apartment. Price is around 3,000 Danish kroner or $430 per night. Next up, probably my favorite area behind Frederiksberg, of course. It's the gorgeous Christianshavn.
Now, we visited Nyhavn a little bit earlier in this video, and if I would have to describe Christianshavn, it would probably be like Nyhavn, but with a lot fewer tourists. I mean, you got the canals, the boats, the beautiful old colorful buildings. You just get that same vibe here. But I mean, there's barely any people here. Just, the people who live here, who work here, but the tourists haven't really come to this area. I mean, the tourists that do come out here to Christianshavn, probably most of them come because of Christiania, the free town, which is also located here in Christianshavn.
Hanging out by the canals in summertime is a favorite pastime for us Copenhageners, and a little budget hack here. If eating out every day is a little too expensive for you, go to a supermarket or a 7-Eleven, grab a ready-to-eat meal or a sandwich, maybe a cold beer, and take a seat by the canal. You'll save a lot of money and have a great time.
And I guess technically Christianshavn is actually a part of the downtown area, but it is kind of separated by this bridge, and in general us Danes, we basically see it as its own little area out here. And I mean, again, you are really close to everything and you can just cross the bridge and then you'll be right in the city center. And you also have a metro station right here in the middle of Christianshavn. So it is a very cool location if you want that feeling of Nyhavn, but can't actually stay in Nyhavn or just want the fewer tourists around you. I mean, I guess it wouldn't really be a nice area to stay in Copenhagen without some green spaces. So here we are at the Christianshavns Vold, basically the old moat, I guess. If I have a better word for it, I'll put it up on the screen. But basically it was part of the city of Copenhagen's defenses back in the day. And now it's just like a big park where you can go for a walk and, well, chill out in nature. So right now I'm on my way to probably my favorite area here in Christianshavn. At least my favorite area to go to have food, to hang out with friends and to have some drinks with my friends. So it's called Køkken and it's right around the corner from here, I guess in the northern part of Christianshavn. And now there's actually a bridge that connects it right over to Nyhavn. So it's really easy to get to.
Køkken is essentially a collection of street food stalls and bars. There's always a great vibe here and the food is delicious. Of course, it is Copenhagen, so don't expect street food to be cheap. Around 100 to 150 Danish kroner for a dish is pretty normal. Street food in Copenhagen is actually pretty close to regular restaurant prices.
It is probably one of the more expensive areas to stay, and there are not a lot of hotels here, mainly because it is just a residential area and there are a lot of offices as well. It's not really a touristy area in that sense, but I will show you the few hotels that are here in just a moment. But you should really consider staying here. I mean, if you want, just look behind me. This kind of view every day you are here. Be very central, be away from the tourists, but also just want some peace and quiet because it is just really quiet and not very busy out here.
The budget hotel here in Christianshavn might just be the coolest one of today. It's called CBH Living and it's a hotel houseboat. Price around $1,600 or $230 per night. Mid-range we'll head to Kanalhuset. This is a beautiful classic Christianshavn building and it's just as gorgeous on the inside. Price 2,000 Danish kroner or $285 per night. For luxury in Christianshavn, head to the NH Collection Copenhagen. This is a very large hotel in a fantastic location and they have a lot of different sized rooms to fit your needs and your budget. Price around 2,200 Danish kroner or $315 per night. And there you have it. Hopefully you now have a much better idea about where you want to stay in Copenhagen and what area would be right for you. And if you do have any questions, drop them in the comments. And you should watch this video right here if you're planning a visit to Copenhagen. This is my main travel guide to this city, where I share some great places, mainly around the city center, and share all the tips you need to have an amazing stay in Copenhagen.